Welcome everyone to an extra session for Dart. I've got to catch up with my family next week. I've already spent over 4 weeks away this year, so I've taken a week off work, and I thought I'll take a week off the charts as well next week. We'll jump into some charts here. We'll have a look at Bitcoin. So when we caught up last, it was around. I'll go to the hour candle. It's a bit easier. It was around here where the cursor is, and we are virtually back at the exact same spot. We did dump shortly after because we made an all-time high. That night, after I'd gone to bed, the ask got dumped out of Bitcoin, and now it's recovered. As it was recovering, I think it was when it was around the 63K level, I sort of put three scenarios at play. The first one was running up and hitting the 786 and then rejecting, which is what initially happened. As we zoom in, we've got the 786, that's this red bar line here. What I didn't like is how it pushed past the 786 quite a bit. It still did reject, as we see in the next candle, came up and tested and then rejected harder. But it did bounce straight back up again. And that sort of got me leaning towards, well, I think higher is going to be on the cards. Although since then, we've sort of just traded sideways and we're starting to break past it now. So that sort of brings into play number two, which is the 886 level at 68,200. If we flip to the 4 hour candle, it's also it's just over 50% of the 4 hour all-time high week. For anyone that's tuned into my previous live sessions before, I'm a big supporter or big fan of looking for opportunities to get into a trade where you're looking to fill these these wicks that aren't touched to grab the liquidity. So to the upside, we've got that one. And then to the downside, we've also got this one down here, which sits at around 60K, give or take, is around the 50% level of that wick. So that's how I got to option number two. And then option number three, and I don't often use this fib level, the 1.272, but I have in this instance, and that's sweeping above the all-time high. I mean, we broke through back here, but literally only just, and this is on the Bybit Perps chart. I haven't checked the all-time high on other charts, but from my understanding, on some charts it broke through, on some other charts it hasn't. And given the volume that came in, I really don't think we're ready to start pushing up to much higher levels, which is where I came in with this fib level. And so basically it's going to come up, in my opinion, test it, reject. And then here is where the magic moment is whether it has flipped the all-time high level into support and bounces and continues. That's where we may see a continuation, or it falls back below, tests the all-time high, reject, and then carries on down. And when it carries on down, I'm sort of expecting it to start falling into this range here, where I've got the horizontal lines at 61.5K, all the way down to 52.5K. Now, the reason why I think we're going to see some trading down in this range, it may not be next week or the week after or the next month, but I think we will see it in the next few months at least, is if we go over to daily chart, there has been no structure formed in this zone. And if we look through the history of Bitcoin, well, we've had this run up here. We've got a little bit of a structure in this zone. Well, we had this run up here. We then seem to form a bit of a structure in that zone that ran up. In this zone here, we had the previous structure. Where we don't have structure is actually from that 31.9k up to about 33k, but that's quite a small range. We're only talking around 2k there. The range that I've got up here it's around 8k. So that I sort of think that we're going to come back down and range in this level. We are definitely overextended quite a bit. I mean, the run has been pretty much straight up. It has had some severe pullbacks, but the pullbacks have all recovered fairly quickly. Now, looking from a bear market, not a bear market, looking for a floor price perspective, I've already adjusted the fibs. So we've got, it's a bit hard to see because they're overlapping, but I've got the previous all-time high down to the bear market low. Sits at 42,230, I think it is. And then the current all-time high, all-time high to the bear market low sits, about $50 higher than that. I think that's going to form an extremely solid support level, and it's going to be very, very, very unlikely that we're ever going to see below 42k again. So 42k for me is pretty much my floor price. If there is a big crash in the next month or so, for whatever reason it might be, I'd only expect wick below this level. I don't think we're going to get a daily close. If we were to get a daily close below the 50% level and it didn't bounce straight back through the following day, then there's going to be something bigger is going on in the world. Perhaps the land cycle is coming to an end quicker or sooner than what I've anticipated, and a lot of people that follow the land cycle, what they've anticipated. But again, I think I'd probably put it at less than 2% chance that we're going to get any closes but below the 42k level. Can we come back down into this area? Yep, we certainly can, but I doubt we're going to get a close below this level. So that's probably where we're sort of sitting with Bitcoin for the moment. There has been a bit of volatility since we last caught up, but for the most part, we're exactly at the level where we caught up on Tuesday. We're at the exact same level as right now, with some movement in between. I might jump into NEO actually, because that's come out of the gates in a very, very nice way. I'll go to the weekly. We'll have a look at why did we stop between $6 and $6.50. I think it was around $6.20 was the high, give or take. And so as we slide left, I might chuck it on the monthly chart. Might be a bit easier to see. We can see back here in August 2022, so 18 months ago, this same level around that $6 mark provided some resistance before the leg down. It was a rebound and then boom, straight down. So I didn't think that we were going to get through this level on the first go, and we haven't. We're sort of down about 10% from making that high. I know it's up a shitload in between that, but yeah, it has had a rejection from this level. If we do start coming back down, I think we're going to start looking at testing some of these tops on the monthly, or we can drop it back to a weekly and we get some more clarity. So if we start coming back down to test these tops, I wouldn't expect this to fall too much lower than around that $3.80 mark in the next few weeks. That's if it does come back down. It's only just made its high today, so it could keep going. It may have more in the tank, in which case, this fib, if it goes up to 750, fib's going to go up, and then we're going to start looking at around that $4.30 mark as being the low for a retrace. Or if we go up to say 950, and then the retrace might come down to $5.15 or something like that. So where the retrace comes down to, it keeps moving up as the price goes up. But as it currently stands, I think it has had a decent rejection from this 620 level. We go on to an hourly chart. We can see some spikes in volume, and then we start getting some red candles, and the volume did start to increase a little bit. It's tapered off the last couple of hours, but it is still trending down over the last sort of 8 hours or so. I think that that's going to sort of continue a little bit, but yeah, we'll see what happens with NIA, where it goes. I have been very bullish on NIA. I think I say it nearly every week. I think it's a great project and I love it. So I'm looking forward to see what else sort of comes. We might jump into Sweat because Sweat's been doing really well. And I might flip to the daily on Sweat. So as we were coming up here, I'd outlined the range of where Sweat had been trading. It's based on closing candles. So this horizontal line down here is the range low. This one's the range high. So we really need to get a daily close above this level, which we got on the weekend. And then I said, we need to hold the Monday and not dump below on the Monday. It held the Monday, dumped on the Tuesday when Bitcoin hit its all-time high and shit its pants, but it just managed to hold the line. Only just. But that's all that it needed because it has since had a nice bounce and nearly fully retraced the dump. If you look at today's candle, it has actually retraced the dump completely. I think for Sweat, we're looking pretty good. I think we're sort of on target and tracking in the right direction. We do have a lot of green candles here, so maybe we get up a little bit higher to, I don't know, around 1.32 cents, something like that, 1.35 cents. Then have a little bit of a pullback, maybe test this 1.25 cent region before we start going up and attacking the high. That was set at 1.44, 1.45 cents, which is also the 786. It's also starting to get pretty close to the top of the channel. But that will then give Sweat some breathing space in the next couple months to go up, test the high, probably sweep the high, maybe have a bit of a pullback and carry on sideways a little bit more, which is fine. As long as we're sort of holding into this channel, I'm pretty happy with the progress of Sweat. Like, there is some people that maybe I suppose carry on to a certain degree about the Sweat price and how it's stagnant and being an altcoin, but at the end of the day, if it's fairly stable and it's not going backwards, you're getting 12%. If you're staking it, you're getting 12% on fiat. If we're going to call it a stable coin, where else are you going to go to get 12%? So if you're basically guaranteed 12%, and there's a chance it's going to go up, you're winning. You're winning compared to putting your money in the bank. I think we're definitely going to get growth here. I don't believe Sweat's a stable coin. So yeah, I think things are looking up. This part, when it was ranging, was boring. The volume dropped off. It looked like an accumulation zone to me. And this is sort of starting to show proof that perhaps it was. We see Simon's puts up the market statistics every day in the Sweat trading chat, and we've seen that the past 3 or 4 days the volume has picked up quite a bit, getting back to almost what it was like in this run up to the highs. So that's great to see as well. Keep in mind we are on the Bybit perp chart for Sweat. This is not the highest volume chart for Sweat. It's probably, I don't know, maybe the 3rd or 4th highest volume chart. So I wouldn't be taking the volume profiles on this perp chart as gospel. overall, sweat is looking good, in my opinion. Might have a look at Solana. It's been a little while since we've looked at Solana. My fibs are actually quite off here, to be honest. That's fairly interesting. So back here, I actually had a fib drawn from this low to the high. I must have discussed it in a previous live session, but price came back down to the golden pocket and has then taken off again. So just looking at what we've got on Solana, it's mostly holding this trend line. Like, it has had a few dips below, but it never stays below it too long before it pops back up, falls below, pops back up, and now it's really taken off above the trend line. I think it's on its warpath after this. This is a high time frame golden pocket here. By the looks of it, it's the all-time high for the bear market low. Yep, that's right. You can see the line there for the fib, all-time high for the bear market low. There's going to be a massive amount of resistance and selling pressure coming at this golden pocket, I would think. There's going to be a lot of eyes on it, a lot of shorts come in. So I don't expect it to push through on the first go, which is fine. If it hits that $163 mark, $160 mark, comes down to maybe 145, something to that effect, even down to 125. Does a little bit of sideways, it may be able to come back up and push through. And if it does push through, then we've got $200 is sort of the next level, which lines up with this top here before it started dumping quite a bit. So I think that would be two levels I'd be keen on taking a day trade. What else can we have a look at? We'll look at the Nikkei, because that's broken its all-time highs recently. And it also looks like it's dumped maybe on a bigger retracement now. So it ended up breaking its all-time high and continued on for just over 4%. I think, yeah, so I did post this chart up the other day. It was literally as it broke this trend line. That's when it went up to break its all-time high. It's made a new all-time high, and now it has had quite a decent amount of volume come in and some pretty big red candles to the downside. So for me here, if we're going to see the Nikkei continue up to start making some more highs in the short term, I want to see this low here at 38,850 held. However, if it starts to break this down, then we might be in for a bit more of a larger correction to the downside, which could last several weeks. And ever since it broke here at 34K, it's been mostly straight up. Like, it did stop here, had a little bit of sideways, but for the most part, it almost looks like how Bitcoin's been performing, to be honest. So if we were to start to see a bit of a retrace, it would be acceptable in my opinion. If we do start to see those lows get taken out at that 38,850, I think it was I said, we could even see a deeper retrace down to this 34K level back here when it broke its structure on its way to break the all-time high. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch over the next coming months. It sort of does fall in line with how markets have been moving. If we look at the SPX, it also starts looking like it's been topping out. But I have been saying that for a couple of weeks now, but it does keep bucking the trend, but it's not moving up as quickly anymore. It is definitely slowing down. It is overdue for a pullback, but it is still going up. So it's looking stronger than the Nikkei at the moment. But yeah, once we start seeing this turn, it could be the Nikkei could be leading the US market, perhaps. So we'll start to see what happens in the next couple of weeks here. But yeah, SPX is definitely overextended as well. A bit like Bitcoin, a bit like the Nikkei. Might jump into the euro. So the euro, we've got here, and I'll go out to a monthly time frame. This channel is nearly 6 years. It's a 6-year channel, this one, or over 6 years, this channel, that the euro has been tracking. And recently, we've had a few attempts at breaking to the upside out of the channel. So we got the first attempt, got a heavy rejection. And the second attempt, got the rejection was about half as strong as this one, or half as much of a pullback as this one. So now I think we're getting primed for a third attempt. It's going to push through, sweep this fire up to the golden pocket up here. And yeah, I'll put a nice little smiley face for when it happens. We did have I was looking at some smaller time frame action with Kitty Pong in the Forex chat. And I did identify this area here as a bounce zone. And that's pretty much what's happened. Come down, hit the golden pocket, and taken off from there. The euro growing against the US dollar sort of falls into what happens with the land cycle at this stage. We do expect the US dollar to start dropping in value against the other currencies around the world as the dollar starts getting moved into stocks, into the other currencies. It definitely weakens at this stage. So it sort of falls in line with how this chart looks like it's going to be playing out. Hasn't played out yet, but yeah, this is sort of what I'm anticipating to happen. Was there any charts that anyone wanted me to have a look at in particular? Yeah, I can have a look at ADA, and I think someone asked me to look at DOT as well. So I'll look at ADA and DOT. DOT's actually one that I haven't typically looked at, to be honest. I might just jump into ADA first because I do have that here. So for ADA, I think it's still got room to the upside. This actually go back to the daily. This golden pocket up here is fairly high time frame. A fairly key level as well. It got pushed down heavily back here. I think there's definitely room to move for ADA. It has been a bit of a lackluster event, I think, particularly where it's come from. I was trading at $3 a couple of years ago now, but yeah, it was trading right up there. So it fell a long way down to 20 cents. Overall, ADA really isn't one that sort of ticks boxes for me as a spot investment. But yeah, I'm happy to day trade ADA. It is quite respectful of TA and Fibs, particular the 618 level. It loves the 618. So yeah, I don't expect it to break through here on a first attempt. It does have a tendency to wick straight to the 0.65 area and then sort of falter away. So you always got to make sure you got some wide stops. But yeah, great for day trading, in my opinion, but something I'm not particularly keen on holding for spot. I'll jump into DOT. So DOT's been a bit of a late bloomer for me. It didn't bottom until October last year, but since it did bottom, it's pretty much claimed its levels back pretty quickly. We're only 5 months since it bottomed, and it's already 3x more or less, 2.5 to 3x from where it was. But it does have a long way to go to get back to its highs. It did make its high at $55 back in the bull market. I think a lot of this growth was due to the polka dot auctions that went on back then. For those that may have been around, they were a bit of a fizzle, the polka dot auctions in the end. It was great for the price of dot. It was great for the price of the tokens within the polka dot auctions at the start, but with time, those tokens actually really periled and perished and virtually went to zero. Not exactly that. It's more metaphorically speaking, but yeah, they did not do very good whatsoever. One to look at for comparison reasons to that would be Moon River. Moon River did fairly shit. So as you can see, when it opened up, it was $630, and at its low, we got down to $3.50. That's just an example of one of the polka dot auctions that did not go well in the long term. Like at the time, it probably looked like it was fine, but yeah, it just bled the whole way. But getting back to polka dot, I think it's going pretty well at the moment. We'll just chuck a fib in here. Well, in the short term, there's probably really no reason why it can't get up to that $13 level. That's still a 25-30% move from where it is currently. I think that would be fairly reasonable to expect before we start seeing some pullback and a bit of resistance come into it. If it does really start to get moving, we've also got $16 for the golden pocket, the 786, and then we've also got those highs at 24. We are seeing alts move pretty quickly, especially those ones that haven't been doing much for quite some time. They've quietly been taking off. So yeah, we could start to see Polkadot start creeping up and claiming these levels slowly. But yeah, the first key level would be this $13.70 mark. Definitely. I mean, right now where it sits, it is at resistance. When we had the pullback in the middle of the last bull market, that is where it bounced from, pretty much exactly that $10.50 level. So getting through this current stage is fairly key. But given that it's holding the price, it hasn't rejected too badly at the moment. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, so on its first attempt, it did reject, but that also fell in line with Bitcoin when it made its all-time high and rejected. So that's probably no fault of Polkadot itself, but it slowly came back up, actually claimed that high, made a new high, came into a bit of a rejection, but definitely nowhere near as hard. I think a lot of this sort of hinges on with Bitcoin and what Bitcoin does as well. Bitcoin sort of maintains its current range. It's going to allow these alts to start getting some legs into them. But if Bitcoin takes a decent dump back down to that range that I have there, and it starts hitting the lower of that range around that 53K level, it's going to be fairly catastrophic, I think, for the alts. I think they're going to suffer quite severely in that instance. Already did near Muji. You'll have to rewatch, mate. This one's recorded, but I'll jump into PYTH and I can do TRON next. So PYTH has been a real warhorse since we last spoke about it. I think when we were talking about it, it was in this range here, perhaps Muji. And it literally just went boom like a couple of days later. I think I remember saying I think it looks like that it's got a bit of upside to it, but yeah, I definitely didn't think it was going to go that high. And then it's massive liquidity grab to the bottom. Actually, just about hit the 618 at 44 cents. This is on an index chart, so on perp charts, I'm pretty sure it did dip lower to around 41, 42 cents. I think it can still come back down, definitely. Whilst it is going back up here. This week here has had no liquidity taken out of it, so it could come back up to that 77, 75 cent level. If it does start rejecting from there, then it's likely going to come back down and take some liquidity out of this wick here. However, something to be careful of is that if it does start pumping above this wick and start making some more highs again, then this fib's going to keep moving. So let's say it gets to $1, which is it's a fair way from where we are at the moment. But then we're starts to get a little bit more difficult for the price to start getting down to some of these lower levels. It's still likely that it comes down and grabs liquidity from this wick because we still have the golden pocket falling in it. But if we then start going up to say that $4.20 area, all of a sudden the golden pocket starts disappearing from the wick, and that wick might end up just getting left. So it is just something to be mindful of. If we start breaking this high, it's back into discovery again. Because I don't think it's been higher than that. Nope, hasn't been higher than that. So that'll be an all-time high. It starts going into discovery, a bit like what we saw with Injective. Went into discovery, took off. The same thing may happen if it does get back up there. But yeah, at the moment, I'll be looking at it taking liquidity from this week and then rejecting down because this was fairly heavy sell pressure in here, and it did get quite low. It's been listed on Bybit for quite a while, Muji. It could have been on Upbit, maybe. Upbit, I think, uses is it the won? That's the Korean currency, I think. That they don't do any trading in USDT on Upbit. They only do their stablecoin essentially is their native currency. I'll jump in and have a look at TRON. That's another one that I don't think I've ever looked at. I'm not sure. TON? Do you mean TON or TRX Starseed? I think you mean TRX. So I generally go off tickers, particularly with ones that I don't typically look at. Geez, this is just straight up. Doesn't surprise me being Justin Sun's little baby. We'll draw a fib. So this fib is basically from this high down to this low over here. So I did get a fair rejection from up here. Got up to 18 cents, and then had a very deep rejection down to 4 cents, which we can also see perhaps why it did get down there. Has any confluence with any levels? Yeah. So I'll delete the first fib so it's not confusing for anyone that's not familiar with fibs. So I've gone, this fib's drawn from the low set back in March 2020 to the bull market high set in 2021. And the retrace of that move hit on the head the 786 level. As we can see down here, wicked down to the 786 and then took off from there. And ever since it made its low, it has just been going straight up. Yet again, another one. Looking pretty good, but it has just gone virtually straight up. I think it is going to be due for a bit of a pullback. Might get a little bit more up to about 15 cents. And then we can go like that. Up to 15 cents, delete that one. So hypothetically, go up to 15 cents and maybe come down to there or even there. I think with how things have been moving at the moment, I think this 10-cent area looks a bit better to me. It does have a bit of structure there where it did a bit of trading as well. It's got it's a 50% level. It's got confluence with SMC as well. However, if it does start losing this level and getting a close below it, we could expect a wick down to this 786, just as we saw how this low here was formed. So yeah, it's just going to be a little bit of a wait and see for this one. I think there's a little bit of upside left, but I think there's probably more downside to come for Tron before it does start taking off again, because it has been more or less going in a straight up fashion since it made its low. Was there any other tokens you guys want me to have a look at, or any questions or opinions? Even anyone you want to share their screen and maybe look at a chart even? Hey Levi, good to see you there, mate. And hey Starseed. We can have a look at ORDIs. So Ordinals has just been going crazy, hasn't it? It's only been around for almost 12 months. Got down to as low as $2, almost $2, and has just been going crazy since. Is getting some rejection though, where it is at the moment. We saw the initial rejection from here where it's come down. and it sort of grinded back up. Sweat this high at $92, and then it's dumped with Bitcoin. So I think for ordinals, it's very much being led by Bitcoin and what Bitcoin's doing at the moment. I think it's probably overdue for a bit of a run back down. How low can it go? Look, it's set a fairly decent foundation in this $50 range here, $50 to $55 range. We've got a bit of trading here before it sprung up. And then on its first initial rejection, it came down and found some support again at the $50 level before it started taking back off again. I can chuck in a fib. We do have this decent wick here that we'd like to see some liquidity taken out of, which I think it's probably going to be in the process of doing at the moment. But we could probably look at at least $67 as a pullback zone. However, this 786 at around $59 probably looks a bit better, in my opinion, as an area for it to come down to before perhaps taking off again. Yeah, I'd probably be looking at a bit of a pullback, I think, at the moment. It's just that it hasn't recovered from this big sell-off from Tuesday. The daily close got a doji. Today looks like another doji. There's not much green going on. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more sellers in the market for Ordis at the moment, which is also understandable when you look at how quick it's grown and where it's come from. There's a lot of people in profit. There's not going to be too many people that aren't in profit at the moment. The only people that really aren't in profit is anyone that's bought above here, in here. All these people are all in profit. So there's definitely going to be some sell pressure here for ordinals. Hey, no worries, Levi. We try to do this weekly. We're not going to have one next week just because I've got some family commitments. Yeah, we try to do this weekly, and we definitely encourage people to ask questions. And if there's anything that anybody wants me to look at or go over, whether it's a chart or technical analysis techniques, more than happy to do that. So the question's about sweat and its unlimited supply and how will the price go up. No, it's not a stupid question. It's a very valid question, and I can see where the concern comes in with it. Having an unlimited supply is a concern for most tokens, especially when they have crazy inflation, and that's what sort of eats away at your profits because the inflation comes in and people sell, and it suppresses the price too much. But with sweat, the inflation rate is not too. It's not bad. It's technically deflationary, although I sort of do disagree with using that term for sweat, just because it's deflationary if you include the vote that we had last year to burn 1.8 billion tokens, I think it is. But those tokens were more or less unused, unclaimed tokens, so they really not from the supply. Those tokens were very unlikely to hit the market. However, I don't believe that the inflation rate is too severe if you do exclude those burns. But the beauty of what the sweat team do have is they do have a lot of levers to reduce the inflation of the token by burning fees, which is going to turn automatic pretty soon. The increased steps required to mint tokens. There's also the step cap at 5,000 for non-premium and 6,000 for premium members to convert sweat per day. So that the inflation is very much limited, and there's definitely a lot more levers to make it deflationary. And I think that's what it's what David has said over in the chat a few times, that's the biggest focus for them this year, is to rather than on-ramping new users, they're now shifting their focus to doing token syncs and reducing the overall inflation rate and making it sort of self-sustainable moving forward. So if they're aware of it, I think that's great as well. They're working multi-chain. I think is that in regards to the abstracting with NIA, and is that what you're sort of referring to there? Yeah, I do agree with the gas fees. They can be a little bit high, but it's one of those things, I suppose. Like they're high because it's got to cover the gas fees, and it's also part of how the sweat team generate revenue, and 50% of that revenue also gets burnt as well. So you're sort of contributing to the greater good in a roundabout way, I suppose. Um, if the fees were low, then that also decreases how much that can be burnt, and that also has a negative impact in that regard, because it doesn't help reduce the inflation as much either. Yeah, I think the multi-chain thing with the abstracting and being able to sort of seamlessly use different chains through NIA seems pretty interesting. I'm not really completely across that side of blockchain technology, to be honest. I'm more just into trading coins. But when it does come out, I'll do my own little bit of research on it if it's something that I think that I'll use. It sort of is a trading question, Muji, because it's probably more relevant to a long term hodl investment perspective. It's great to see a chain looking to integrate themselves with everyone, and how can they do it? Um, if they're one of the few chains or only chain that can easily use all the chains at once, it's going to bring more users to them. It's going to, and just as Baldrick's written, that's right, increase transactions and gas fees and usability. Will also increase developers to the chain, because they're going to be like, well, I'll put my DApps on NIA, and then I can have people from Ethereum, wherever, Sui, I can have them from anywhere coming over and using my DApp. They don't have to be on NIA. So yeah, I think that's a great thing if it works how I think it's going to work with my limited knowledge. Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. Even for doing like launch pads as well. It's pretty cool. You won't have to worry about bridging your tokens from NIA to BNB to Ethereum. So yeah, I think it's a great thing moving forward. The thing is that it needs to get off the ground and get released and a bit more airtime, I think. I don't think that gas fees or inflation has a direct impact on a price of a token. For me, the prices on a token move due to technical analysis, and then you have the fundamentals that sort of help it on its way. When you're looking at a longer term picture, that's when you start to get all these fundamentals building up together to present a really good project, which lets a really good project take off. That's the difference between memes and a project with great fundamentals. But when it comes to like day trading and things like that, for me, fundamentals really play quite a small role. And that's why you see the likes of like Pepe and all those other meme coins that have zero fundamentals. They're pumping because the fundamentals really don't matter for the short period price movements. Um, yeah. Well, I think we might call it at that for today, guys. It was great to see some new faces. Hopefully, you guys tune in to more of our live sessions. We will actually have an AMA coming up soon. I'm hoping to have it planned for in 2 weeks' time. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. Um, I need to do my own research on them. I haven't really looked into them just yet. So yeah, that's going to be something that's exciting. And we've also got the 1,000 sweat giveaway that's going on at the moment due to Bitcoin breaking past 64K before the halving. So make sure you get on board with that. The only caveat is that you get a little bit involved in some of the chart channels, whether it's asking questions or putting up a chart yourself. Pop a comment in there, get involved a little bit, and yeah, we'll have that drawn. I think it's getting drawn next week on Monday or Tuesday. So looking forward to passing on 1,000 sweat to someone. And take it easy, guys. Enjoy your day wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you guys next time.